Okay, so this is the Rift in game. You can't see it too well on the screens, but it is a really weird feeling. You look around and the reticule on the screen just stays in the same place, the mouse still controls the reticule. It gives you a lot more accuracy and a lot more realism, and also it gives you a lot more sense of the 3D. And it's very hard to concentrate with everything going on around you. It's a really weird sensation just playing like this, because you're not used to playing like this. So you've got to get used to it fast, and then
Probably worth saying at this point, as you may have noticed, Team Fortress 2 now supports it by standard, but you have to adjust the settings a little bit and the launch options, so worth checking out the Oculus wiki page for instructions on that.
yeah, I'm just trying to find the options to turn the sound way down. Okay, that's better. Yeah, okay, I can hear myself think now. Having that up really high and having the 3D just... it's almost like you're not in the real world anymore. And this does make you very dizzy playing it, and a bit motion sick. I'm not doing too bad now. We played a bit earlier, and that was just really freaky. That did make me feel really motion sick, but at the moment I'm doing okay. It may just because I'm concentrating on so many things at once. And things like seeing your head fly across the screen or seeing 3D flames on your body, that's kind of weird as well, but it's just... it's not really something you can describe. Maybe Alex will do better in a minute. I also find I'm a bit more accurate than I was last time. Last time I played. Not that I played Team Fortress that often, but I've never really been that good at fast-passing shooters, and there's just so much more detail in it now that you can see where you're aiming so much better, and it's probably partly due to the fact that it's in a low resolution, but it's taking the whole field of view. But you can just aim so much easier, and you can dodge so much easier. Not.
This obviously is the display of what you have on the monitor while using the Rift for spectators, presumably.
Yeah, that's at the moment I've set the monitors to duplicate so that you can see it on the display there.
As you can see here, there on the screen, there is the cursor. The targeting cursor is obviously not centraled on the screen. It's relative to position of the mouse.
So they obviously do some processing in between there.
I mean, perhaps in later versions they'll have eye tracking to show where you're looking, but that's much more advanced and
yeah, there's
probably way too expensive to integrate into it at the moment.
There's enough hardware packed into these at the moment. It's
But obviously that's obviously a hope for the future.
Yeah, it's at the moment there's head tracking, there's yaw tracking, there's all sorts of things packed into here. I'll have to look at the specs later and actually do a proper rundown.
We were saying the current one thing that's missing is sound. Obviously, it may not be difficult to wear headphones over. You said your headphones are quite heavy, so you didn't want to wear them on top because it would be quite difficult. Whereas you've obviously got small light ones on at the minute.
Yeah, the gaming headset I use, Turtle Beach, they are heavier than a standard pair, which you kind of expect. The ones I'm wearing at the moment are just a bog standard £5 pair. So these ones aren't too heavy. I imagine if I was actually doing it properly, then it would be difficult to wear them for any long period of time. But just these light ones are okay. I could probably wear this as long as I could wear the Rift. But I'm not sure. I looked on the computer. I looked on the computer settings, and it suggested that the Rift did have speakers in it, but that may have just been because I was connecting through HDMI. So I'm not sure about that. It would be handy if they did have something built in. The other weird thing is you can't look down at the keyboard if you want to double check where the keys are. You can't do that because looking down is literally you get no view outside of the Rift. So you have to be a decent gamer, or at least a decent typist, before you start using this. Otherwise, you're just going to lose the keys, especially ones that are a bit farther away. Like reload's okay because it's right where you'd expect it to be, but if you lose, say, the shift key, then that's going to be harder to find again.
Or use an alternate input method, I suppose, like a controller if you are struggling with the keyboard.
If you do, for example, connect a handheld controller, or if you use one of the other input methods that seems to be being developed, like the Hydra, I think, is in development at the moment. That could be good. I think once we get over the fact that there's virtual reality, then the next thing will be how do we control it? Because using a mouse and keyboard, or even using a controller to control it, isn't really the most realistic. It
breaks the immersion, which of course is the complete opposite of the intention of the Rift itself.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. The Rift is just this completely new thing, and at the moment we're hacking our existing technologies to work with it. But once it becomes more mainstream, it's going to be a lot easier to find technologies that complement it rather than technologies that just work with it or that are okay. It's also a lot easier to get distracted using the Rift. Because of the immersion of it, it tends to take your focus a lot more than a standard game would. Which is why I'm not doing too good at actually talking here. the depth perception on this is slightly blurry, but other than that it's absolutely fantastic in terms of just knowing where you are and knowing where you're going and the distance between everything. You don't notice it really unless you start thinking about what it was like to play this game before, especially Team Fortress 2, which is a fairly old game, so it's got low-res graphics and it's got that cartoony style as well. So just the fact that it gives you this much depth perception is something really different from what you would get when you're just playing it normally. I don't think there's much more I can say about this. The big disadvantage of the Rift is that you actually have to use one in order to actually know what it's like and to understand what it's like to actually use it. But things like the HUD floats around as you move your head, and the reticule stays in the same place. So that's another thing that kind of really helps the immersion.